Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today again. This session is on the growth of high school esports. And again, if you do have any audio issues, you can't hear me, we'll leave this slide up for just a second, just so we make sure any tech issues are solved before we get going. Danny from Indiana, thank you so much for joining us. And a couple of Zoom pointers before we get rolling here. When we go into breakout rooms, just go ahead and turn your camera on to enhance the group discussion. And again, if you have any tech issues, anyone with the word support or host or co-host next to their name, just go ahead and reach out to them if you have any questions. And Davis is also available to help out with any issues. So again, this session today, the spotlight is being offered by MSL CAPITA, which is a part of MindSpark Learning, and we're a new program dedicated to pursuing community resilience through sport. So we offer professional development for anyone involved in a sport organization, whether that's coaches, parents, or educators. There's more information on our website at mymindsparklearning.org/MSL-CAPITA. And we're really excited to be here today. We have an awesome program to share with you near the end of this session, a new CoLab fellowship offering for educators and anyone interested in bringing esports to their school or sport organization. Again, my name is Justin Goldman. I'm the Director of Athletic Partnerships here at MindSpark Learning and MSL CAPITA. We're also joined by Davis Turner, who is the Senior Director of Strategic Programs at MindSpark Learning. We have a wealth of experience in professional sports and education. I've been involved in pro sports for about 15 years, and Davis has been involved both in sports and in education for a number of years as well. So feel free to lean on us even after this session is over. We're always available to, help collaborate on any projects involved in your sport organization or your school. And there's a ton of resources on our online toolkit as well. That's associated with the MSL CAPITA program. The MSL CAPITA program is focused on 4 main pillars. You can see those 4 pillars here. So really a lot of the conversation that we're going to be having today in regards to the growth of high school esports is going to be focused on these 4 categories: social purpose, workforce development, the next generation athlete, and of course, the most important part is the human element, really looking at athletes as human beings first, and not just machines. So here's a little bit of information just on the MSL CAPITA program. And again, there's more information on our website. We have really 3 main objectives for today's session. The first part is to really discuss and have a great conversation about why Scholastic Esports is so important and why it's so relevant in today's world. The second part is going to be focused on convergence and how that's really changing lives of not just students, but athletes and even coaches and educators as well. And then the third part of our session today is going to focus on really those first steps to, getting an esports program started, again, in your sport organization or your school. So throughout this session, again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat room. And reach out to us at any time. We love talking about these topics. We're really passionate about it, and we want to share that passion with you all. So we're going to go ahead and start with a quick little exercise called Build Your Own Character. I think one of the great things about video games and esports is that everyone who plays connects and resonates with different characters in different ways and for different reasons. And there's this really awesome program that Davis is going to share in the chat room called Character Creator. And so what you're going to do is you're going to spend 5 minutes going through this website and creating your own video game or esports character. This is a really cool image. It's kind of a mashup of Super Mario and Zelda and a bunch of different really popular esports characters. And so we're just going to spend 5 minutes kind of participating in this activity, be creative, have fun with it, tinker with all the really cool attributes and the different traits that you can build in this character creator website. So the website is charactercreator.org. That's shared in the chat room. Go ahead and pull that up and we'll spend the next 5 minutes working on this and then we'll reconvene. Okay, welcome back everyone. really cool exercise. You can definitely get caught going down a rabbit hole with this awesome application. And just to kind of show you, this is a random generator. This is what my character looked like. It's almost like a really modern industrial Viking of some sorts. And if you had any issues with this, I would just consider trying to refresh. It should be working fine. But this is a really great tool that you can obviously use in the classroom, work on with kids. You see the male and female character, you just click on one and then it'll pull up a skin tone. And from there, it pulls up all of the different options. So if you had any issues, maybe just try refreshing, but that's a really cool activity that you can use in the classroom remotely as well.
It's one of the things that I used to use as an educator to kind of help bring stories and characters to life. It was kind of almost like a storyboarding feature where if a student had trouble of making a unique character, they'd go and maybe make a randomized character, and then they'd be able to, all right, how did this history become this, right? Where did he come from before? Where did she come from before? And then be able to build a story off of there. It also helps a lot with just empathy building, right? And bringing somebody to life whereas like I want to create this person because of this, right? And they have some sort of background and they have some sort of connection to this piece of jewelry or this accessory or this type of clothing or this color hair or this style. You know, what is it that they see that they can really see themselves in, or how is it implored in their stories, and how is it being kind of exposed through different facets of their kind of learning journey?
And really, when we start to discuss, Scholastic Esports, that is one of the biggest pieces that we see in terms of the benefits to having a high school program, and why there's such expansive growth in this industry is because every student, every kind, every mind has an opportunity to connect not only within themselves, but with the team or the club or the group of other gamers and interested esports enthusiasts in the school. And if you missed, actually a couple of months ago, we did another presentation on Scholastic Esports, on demystifying a lot of the different pieces that go along with Scholastic Esports. And after this presentation, you'll be receiving an online toolkit via email, as well as a link to the recording of this entire session. And in that online toolkit, there's another link to view that previous recording and that previous spotlight that we did on demystifying esports. So that's going to be a great another tool for you to use that you can lean on to help improve your understanding of why esports is so relevant right now. And when we look at the relevancy of esports, especially at the high school level, one of the biggest things that we hear and that we experience is that it's a great opportunity to meet kids where they're at right now. A lot of schools are already benefiting from this, and it's improving teacher-student relationships. It's improving the relationships between students themselves, and it's giving everyone an opportunity to get involved and come together. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've learned and I've heard from kids that are playing, in esports clubs and in esports programs across the country right now, the biggest piece of feedback I get is that they love playing with their friends online, especially right now when kids are struggling with a loss of identity, or they're missing their school friends because of remote learning and because of the pandemic. The ability to still connect online and enjoy a video game together has a lot of value. And that's the most prominent piece of feedback that I've received over the past couple of years as to why kids really enjoy Scholastic Esports, because they get to play with their friends online, and at the same time, they're still learning. Being able to compete, whether it's casually or a little bit more organized during the pandemic, is also another really important factor as to why Scholastic Esports is really important right now. It's a great platform for teacher connectivity. It's a great way for teachers to flex their creativity in the ways that they blend learning with gamification and video games as well. And it also gives those students a voice and an outlet. So here's again, this is a glimpse of the webinar that we hosted previously. And once again, you will receive a link. And I think Davis already shared that link in the chat room. So that's perfect. And when it comes to demystifying esports, kind of a 20,000 foot overview of the clinic that we held, these were some of the things that we demystified when it comes to esports in the school. First of all, it's really important to understand that gaming is not a waste of time. It's been proven to develop a lot of key soft and hard skills, for example, like collaboration and tech literacy. And it accepts students of all kinds. Everyone's on the same level when it comes to an esports club. And you see different demographics and different types of kids in schools come together to enjoy that experience and learn at the same time. Gaming has also not been scientifically or directly linked to violence. One of the big reasons for that is because in any type of organized scholastic gaming club or esports club, toxicity, bad behavior, and online bullying is never tolerated. So if you go into any organized esports club and you look at their articles of incorporation, you're going to find that there are strict rules on not allowing this type of behavior. And that's really important because it keeps everyone in a positive mindset and everyone's working to build that team camaraderie. Also, it's important to understand that teachers and coaches do not need gaming expertise or professional esports experience in order to start or manage a high school club. And that's one of the great things about these clubs in high school is that it provides agency to the students and they take on leadership roles and they get the opportunity to build their own program. And as a teacher, a facilitator, or a coach, you're overseeing the development and you're cheering them on. And they really get to take charge of how the club comes together, the type of games that they're playing. And that's a really important thing for student agency and to help develop their workforce readiness skills as well. Another great benefit for high school scholastic esports programs and why it's become so relevant and so integral right now is because it marries perfectly with STEM. They work in harmony with one another. It may not seem like that on the surface, but when you start to really dig into a lot of the different elements that come into play in a high school esports program, all of it is right there. So we built this little graphic just to show you the type of science, technology, engineering, and math learning that can take place in an esports program. Being able to ask questions and define problems, analyzing different types of data that comes through, various esports titles. Critical thinking is a really important, hard skill that can be developed in an esports club. Obviously, on the technology side, everything from building your own gaming PC to understanding the different elements of coding and the peripherals and the processing units that come into play when it comes time to build that esports club and to play the games is also right there for the taking. Same thing with engineering, whether it's building in Minecraft Education, which we'll see shortly, or it has to do with the environment designs in a 3D world, or it's even looking at live events and stage production. All different types of engineering is incorporated into an esports club and program. And then the math is really obvious as well when it comes to problem solving and looking at quantitative awareness and the scale and size and symmetry of different gaming elements. And one of the biggest proponents and one of the biggest programs that's really popular right now in a high school esports program is Minecraft. And this is also being used at the grade level as well. And what's great about Minecraft is, again, on the surface, it just looks like a game, but there's an entire component that's focused on blending education in the game itself. And there's this really awesome video that we're going to share that shows a little bit more about this.
It's kind of like bringing math to a whole nother level and making it fun.
Yay! Like fireworks went off in my head. If you really try to find an academic way to use Minecraft, there's so many ways you could use it.
Minecraft is a game about breaking and placing blocks. It's an open world game where the only limit is what you can think of to do. It's creative, it allows people to build things, but also to explore on their own. And now what we want to do is bring Minecraft into the classroom.
There's no limits to Minecraft. It's all to do with me and my imagination.
People should be allowed to express what they want to do, and that's what Minecraft helps to do.
Minecraft is a one-stop solution for a lot of education curriculum content.
The history curriculum or the geography curriculum or literacy or numeracy.
If you think about it, it has a lot of math connected to it, such as there's little blocks that make up one big block, and one amount of big blocks that make up one whole house.
We did have a lot more fun with Minecraft.
They were playing Minecraft for an hour. Let's go.
Minecraft's already been used in many schools around the world. What we're looking to do is build the next phase of this movement and make it easier to communicate between teachers, students, and each other.
Listen, kids, I don't know a lot about this technology, but I know you do. What I know a lot about is what you need to learn.
Sometimes the students are learning from the teachers, sometimes the teachers are learning from the students.
I think classrooms must change because the world we live in is changing so fast.
Let's meet the children halfway. Let's let them be the tech experts and let us be the teaching experts, and let's meet them in the middle.
I'm building a country and it's going to be like only islands.
You can build iconic places.
We can try to build the biggest tower.
There's social gains, there's collaborative perspective. You need to be able to look up and find research and information.
Collaboration happens without any input from the teacher.
So many skills that plug into that are just invaluable.
It really opens up the students to just be free thinkers.
You just get to use your imagination a lot more.
People take ownership of their own learning and then they learn for the rest of their life.
Doing both, having fun and learning.
This project is an ongoing communication with the teaching community. We want more people to join the conversation. What we want to do is enable people to change the way we learn.
So we made sure to share some resources on Minecraft education in our online toolkit. And you saw students of all ages there interacting and collaborating. And you heard from the teachers as well, talking about how, they're not necessarily experts in the game, but that's okay because learning happens together. And I think, again, when we talk about agency in student population, it's a great way to empower them to take control of their own learning. And that's just one of the great benefits that a game like Minecraft, which is super, super popular, can be used in the classroom in an esports club or a gaming program. And this also really helps build this culture of innovation that we believe is really important to the future of education. And that's what's so great about STEM and esports working hand in hand, is that the students really get an opportunity to take control of the way that they learn and how they learn. And it happens together. And so being able to make mistakes and leveling up and using a lot of these gamification tools that are becoming more popular in the classroom, especially remotely, is just a great way to reward your students for making progress, coming up with new ideas, and really just improving their performance and their understanding of different topics all in the same space. And again, this is a great opportunity for teachers to really break the mold of what traditionally happens inside the classroom. I know educators and coaches as well everywhere is looking at ways to reimagine how they inspire their students and how they teach their students. And gaming and esports is an awesome opportunity for that because it's relevant to the students and the athletes. It's fun for the teachers as well. And it's just a different way to look at, blending enjoyment and fun and collaboration and teamwork with education and learning at the same time. So it's a great opportunity and there's really no limit. I think that's one of the coolest things about esports is no matter what subject you teach or what level you're teaching it at, or what passions you may have as an educator, there's a space and a way for you to incorporate, gamification and esports into the learning process and into that learning experience. And whatever type of classroom you have, whether it is virtual or it's still an in-person classroom just with less students.
I think just to add, Justin, too, is I think you're right. When it comes to speaking about all subject matter, I used to teach, geography and history, and we had a whole section on, empires and building empires. So I get the game Civ 5 out, right? Civilization 5, and it is about building empires. What resources and what strategy do you need to do, or what do you need to do in order to survive when other people are attacking you, or what strategies can you use with the resources that you do have? How do you build a sustainable and growing society when it comes to those things? And it wasn't, it didn't overtake all of the curriculum and all the different processes, but it was an enhancement as a resource, and it leveraged the kids' excitement to learn more about it and be like, oh, well, if they did this, I want to make sure that I bring this into my, civilization in the game. And so it was a good trade-off, and it was able to really process in the application of it, I guess I should say, from real life to the game, and it was just more beneficial that way for them to really understand why and the kind of the backstories behind the reasoning behind all these things too.
Yeah, and I can remember when I was younger, the big game was SimCity. And when SimCity 2000 came out, that was a huge impact for me because I was never interested in archaeology in architecture or in buildings or anything like that, or any type of construction. But because I was drawn into it through the game, I learned a lot at that age, and I really started to, have a little bit more of an understanding on how things are built and how cities come together and how massive it is. And so that's just one example, like Davis said, of how you can incorporate learning through a video game like Civilization. And so again, we really want to stress that one of the reasons why esports is so powerful in high school levels is because it is a vehicle for change. And beyond just, the STEM related topics and the technical side of it, and the more physical components, is that it's also a ready-made platform that supports social emotional learning and empathy-based learning. We talked a little bit earlier, Davis spoke about, the connection that you make with certain characters in certain games and why you're drawn, to certain genres over other genres. It's that immediate, natural inborn connection that you make with a character that you get to play firsthand that really brings that empathy to the surface. And we understand that empathy-based learning is extremely important in today's world. So when it comes to, teaching diversity and inclusion and acceptance and, even some mindfulness tactics into the daily lives of students and athletes, again, esports and gaming is going to be a great vehicle for that. It's going to be a great opportunity to blend all of those things together. The other thing too is at the high school level, maybe not so much in middle school and grade school, but at the high school level, especially, for a teacher or an educator or a coach to oversee a student-run program promotes that agency and also offers relevant career development in a remote setting. So it's asynchronous in the sense that you don't have to be in the same room at the school to, incorporate an esports club into what you're doing. You can do it remotely. You can do it virtually. You can connect through platforms like Discord or even Zoom and still participate in a lot of the same esports activities that you see in other schools without being in the same room at the same time. The other thing that's becoming more and more relevant, especially at the high school level, is this concept of digital citizenship. Very important skills for every student to have, especially as we become more digital at the professional level as well. So bringing esports into the classroom, virtual or in real life, is a great way to teach those digital citizenship skills. So for example, how to act in difficult online situations. Again, showing respect for all people, even though you might be hiding behind a screen and a keyboard. Bullying, even things like just your natural physical health and other subjects that are like not necessarily the easiest to teach in a classroom setting. Esports, again, is another way to harvest that culture where you are really keying in on these personal subjects and these situations that often arise digitally, but kids need those tools. They need that mentoring. They need the support, and they need the skills to be able to handle those situations professionally and in a proper positive manner. The other thing too is like being able to follow instructions that the teacher has for different activities and different games while still having that sense of agency and competing and having fun. It's a great way to flex those skills. So you see students all the time. There's a game that's being played, but they have to follow certain instructions and adhere to those rules. They can't just wander off and do whatever they want or build whatever they want. So it's still a great way to get kids to, follow instructions and stay on task while they're still having fun and enjoying themselves.
And I think that's important too, Justin, is to think about like the idea that we would do this normally in person, right? But at the same time, in a digital platform, it's very difficult to monitor and to try to keep organized. And so being able to teach these lessons throughout, I think that's the important pieces, right? I just had an email alert / my credit card. Like one of my passwords was stolen off of a website that I haven't visited in years, and my email and my password were taken. Luckily, I didn't have any credit card information on there, but to know that these things are still out there, they're still tracking and still being able to find these things. What are these students putting out there? Is it to get, certain things and making sure that they're going to valid websites or non kind of like I guess I should say, trolling websites where they're going to get, their information taken, or signing up for, newsletters or emails or whatever it may be, where we're going to get, falsified information. So making sure they know these types of things, even though it's so ingrained in them already, just to kind of go with the flow because it is so digital and they're such a digital kind of generation. They're still coming up with new and modern techniques to still swindle and get all these things. So it's got to be a fine line of what we train. How do we teach digital citizenship comparatively to how we do it normally, or how we did normally before?
Yeah, and I think, that brings up really important topics such as piracy and copyright infringement and understanding, what's allowed and what's not. And those rules are always changing. If you go on YouTube, the rules are very amorphic. One day, you could be totally fine, and the next thing you know, you've got a copyright infringement for 30 seconds of audio that you didn't think was going to happen. So because these rules are constantly changing, again, the esports club and being in that environment allows you to teach those digital citizenship skills that are really relevant and will continue to be relevant as time goes on. And again, we kind of tie that back into one of the main pillars at the MSL CAPITA program, which is really that human element. Okay, and social emotional learning and social emotional growth is extremely important in high schools these days. And it can be difficult for teachers to, incorporate that into a traditional classroom. But again, one of the things that makes esports so potent at the high school level is that you can blend those together. IRB approved research from the Connected Learning Lab, which again, we will link to in our online online toolkit, shows esports students place greater value on the following social skills through the esports club: on school value and engagement with students, that sense of belonging. So instead of there always being these like really hard cliques, let's say, the athletes and the jocks versus the band geeks, man, esports brings them together because you see all kinds and all minds come in the same room and they have that passion for gaming, that passion for esports, and all of a sudden they become great friends. The effort in school starts to rise. Perseverance and grit, team building and collaboration, empathy and understanding all come together in that esports club. And again, it's for all kinds and all minds. Everyone's on the same level once they get into that club setting and they start to experience the benefits of esports. And again, just showing the sheer value of video games, especially on today's consoles. This is a terrific video. It's actually a 22-minute video, a great interview with a game creator, but we shrunk it down to about 2 minutes because there's a really poignant part at the beginning that speaks to this concept of being able to blend empathy and social emotional learning in a video game.
Reality is fiction. It's a fiction conjured by our minds. When Senua sees abstract patterns in her world and hears voices inside her head, who are we to say this is not what's real? We share in this fiction, enter her reality, and in doing so, get a glimpse into the mind of someone suffering from psychosis. This was the explicit intent of the designers of Hellblade, to simulate the world as someone else sees it, to force us to bear witness to the truth of subjectivity. Puzzle solving was mediated by arbitrary symbols in the environment, getting us to search for meaning where others might not. The game used binaural audio to simulate the voices inside her head, and how each attaches to a specific personality. Even the single-shot third-person camera allowed us to experience Senua from outside herself, to convey through mechanics the disassociation that accompanies psychosis. To tackle this subject matter responsibly, Ninja Theory consulted with the neuroscientist Charles Fernyhough, and spoke with people living with psychosis from a variety of groups. To authentically communicate the intensely subjective, Ninja Theory had to simulate that which can't be simulated, the projection that mediates reality and our perception of it. They went to extreme lengths to do this, including funding the game themselves and even lying to the players. Yes, at the beginning of the game, when it tells you that you have a finite number of lives to live, that was a lie. It was a lie to communicate truth, the truth of living with paranoia. Apart from generating controversy around its launch, the game was a success, justifying Ninja Theory's dedication to the project and winning awards for narrative direction and advocating for change. There is something particularly harrowing about playing the game. It's an uneasy sense of being both you and another. She is suffering, but so am I. I am living her story. There's a word for it, I know. Empathy.
Okay, so again, this really kind of poignantly speaks to this concept that, you know, video games are more than just playing a game. It's also an opportunity to teach people about how other people think and feel and experience the real world. I think that's what's so tremendously valuable about video games on today's consoles, is that they're so immersive, they're so realistic that it moves beyond just what you see in front of you on the screen. It's also how you experience playing the character and understanding what the character is experiencing in the game as well. And there's a slew of amazing games that are not necessarily the most popular esports titles, but they do emphasize and focus on empathy as the real vehicle for why a game is created and why it's so important and why it's, you know, downloaded millions of times and played by millions of people. It's not just, you know, a run and gun shooter or one of these more popular titles. It's the fact that it really gets you to feel something, and it helps you understand what other people are going through. And that empathy piece, again, can be translated in the classroom and used appropriately. And it can be a very powerful tool to, again, you know, blend that social emotional learning with education and with gaming at the same time.
It's very much like literacy in that sense, where you can dissect these characters and the path that you've taken them, and I think it's a great storytelling aspect of, you know, how everybody perceives this story, right? Everybody has a different perception, and everybody's going to take something else away from it, and then having those discussion points or having those situations being able to be relived or almost recreated, and discussing why they did these things is a really powerful literacy tool. So if you are dissecting that in a kind of a literature manner, they can be done the same way. It's just a more visual way to doing that. It's almost like a graphic novel in a sense that storytelling is almost boxed off into a visual effect as well.
And when we talk a little bit later about professional development opportunities that come through esports, storytelling is one of those key jobs and key careers that students are developing for themselves right now. Because, for example, maybe they're not super interested in the mechanics or, you know, playing esports at a professional level, but they just love to tell stories. They love to write. They love to create characters. They love to have, you know, the rise and the fall and the conflicts and everything else and develop those characters. There's a lot of value in that. And there are many, many companies out there right now that are paying really good salaries for individuals that understand and have a passion for creative writing in the gaming world. And so again, that's just another skill, like Davis said, in terms of literacy that you can teach in the classroom at the high school level. And that is one of the things that's so powerful about it, is that esports brings out the best in students because games are rooted in powerful stories with characters that come to life. And so again, that's one of the great benefits and why we really stress that there's no limit to what you can do as an educator or a coach when it comes to, you know, leaning on these things and getting the most out of that experience for your students. It's immersive and they're engaged in learning without even really realizing it. So talking about the power of story and how esports at the high school level can change lives, we really wanted to share this video. It's about 6 minutes long, but it really talks about how lives can be changed through esports.
When I was a kid, getting to 18 was like a goal, man. Like, I had so many homies that didn't make it to 18. For sure, I'd never imagined being here. I'm just trying to, like, survive.
I'm here with the youngest African-American venture capitalist in the country, Elaine Parnell. How are you?
I'm doing well. Being on the 30 under 30 list, it's pretty amazing considering where I come from. I grew up in the Jeffries Projects in Detroit. This month, I'm an entrepreneur at Forbes and Fast Company, the trifecta.
The company Play Versus had a very successful round of investing. The company Play Versus is dedicated to creating infrastructure for high school esports that makes it more approachable for high schools to jump in. Notably, it's also the only private company that the National Federation of State High Schools has officially sanctioned.
Yo, what's up? My name's Elaine, and I'm 26, the CEO of Play Versus, and we're building an infrastructure for high school esports. At Play Versus, we're building the infrastructure and official platform for high school esports. We go out and we partner with game publishers like Riot Games and Psyonix and Hi-Rez and governing bodies like the NFHS, which governs all high school sports, to build and operate sanctioned leagues for esports. So kids in high schools are able to play a game like League of Legends for a state championship as their peers would basketball and football.
guys, we're gonna start practice, so pick your players and get started. We're gonna go till about 3:10.
I'm Kelly Corrigan. I'm a programming and web teacher here at Shawsheen Valley Vocational Technical High School, and I'm the esports coach. We run a video game club here, and these are kids that could be playing video games at home by themselves, but they come here to play together for the social aspect of it. One of the big advantages is that anybody can do this. You don't have to be a certain size, height, weight. We have girls, we have boys, we have kids of different levels.
My name is Kieran. I'm in 9th grade. Growing up, I've always wanted to do esports, and it's always been a passion of mine, and never thought that school would have something like this. So when I heard that there was going to be an esports team, I'm like, oh, I want in. And especially when I heard it was for league, I'm like, oh, I definitely want in.
I'm getting emails from kids at other schools asking about this. They want to be on a team. Over the course of the last 2.5 months, I have seen these kids go from constantly saying, I and my, to us and we.
Yo, welcome to our office. Let me show you around. We have 4 core values, all in. If it's worth doing, it's worth winning. We have Adam Silver, NBA commissioner. We got Afromove, only black player in the NALCS, plays for Drake, Scooter Braun, Dan Gilbert, Nate Shot's team, 100 Thieves. You know how rappers and athletes, they show off their garage, their cars. This is our garage. It's our game room. We test video games, we play video games, player experience first. Everything that we do is for our players.
My name's Laz. I'm the vice president here at Play Versus.
We're about to play Rocket League, and I'm totally gonna win. We used to play in my grandmother's basement. It was me, my brother, 3 cousins. We only had 2 joysticks, and we used to have to pass around. I used to hate that. That was my first introduction to esports, really, because we had to compete so hard.
Win so you could keep playing.
So you don't have to wait a couple hours to get the joystick back.
Let's go. It's an alley-oop to myself. That's like when Kobe threw it at the backboard and then dunked. Oh, that's petty. That's disgusting. I can't believe you just did that. We've built a product that allows kids to join their high school esports team just like they would their high school basketball or football or baseball team, and to play in a context that's recognized and that's celebrated within the school.
It's just a great thing to be with people that you know. We're a great team. I've made amazing friends. We stick together. We work together.
It fosters teamwork. It teaches people how to be critical thinkers. Esports at the highest level requires extreme sense of competition, extreme practice and dedication and hard work. Esports teaches teamwork. To win these games, you have to be dedicated. You have to be communicating with your teammates and have a strategy in place together. All of our leagues are co-ed.
I think it's a great thing that girls are going on like esports teams. I think we should all just be together, not separated because of our gender or because stereotypes.
The games are built the same way for everyone to compete in the same way and on the same digital field. Good game. Better luck next time.
Hey, man, you win some, you lose some.
Take one, Parker.
Tell us why Play Versus is your favorite startup.
My favorite startup? Yeah. You know, I could never say one startup is my favorite startup. I'm Mike Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Science Inc. We're a Los Angeles-based incubator and venture fund.
You are easily one of the most impactful people to the success of many LA startups without actually getting the credit. Do you feel overlooked in that regard?
I had a lot of amazing moments in my career, either success or failures, where I built and sold companies or my companies just died horrible deaths. My goal was to make sure that my CEOs were always the winners. I just want to see them go off and become that next breed of insanely good, strong, big business technology leaders. I'm totally fine staying in the background. You've heard me talk a lot. Are there any pieces of advice that I've said that really stuck with you?
The one thing that I take away from watching you as a CEO is the extreme focus you have and discipline.
I'll see you in a few days for our catch-up, right? All right.
I was raised by a single mother. I have an older brother. His name is Daylon. My father was murdered before I was born. His father passed away. My mom, she kept us in sports, put us in whatever sort of program she could to sort of keep us engaged and involved. And she probably changed the trajectory of my life and my careers. She forced us to get summer jobs. I got a summer job at a cell phone store. Eventually, I started selling phones and went to buying a cell phone store, turned that into 3 cell phone stores. When I was a kid, getting to 18 was like a goal, man. I had so many homies that didn't make it to 18. And for sure, I never imagined being here, and I never was trying to be forward thinking about it. I was just trying to survive. So right now, we're about to go to Cool Kicks to get some fire sneakers. Sneakers is something that we talk about all the time. We're always having competitions in the office. In Detroit, it's all about what you wear and being fly. In our high school, the most popular dudes weren't the dudes on the basketball or the football team. They didn't play sports. It was the freshest dudes in the school. Going into high school, sneakers became a passion for me. The money I did make that I didn't save, I would spend on sneakers and clothes. I remember my brother had these. I used to steal them and play basketball in them. I don't know if I'm feeling any of these, but let's try a hand at this game. Maybe we get a pair.
$5 per play, Jesus. All right.
Oh!
No way. Let's go.
In 20 years, millions of kids across the country will be playing esports. Millions more will be on scholarship. My number one piece of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs is to keep going. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. This is my hustle.
All right. So a lot of really good points and things that were discussed in this video. And I think one of the things that resonated with me the most when I first saw this is just the fact that it's not necessarily a zero to hero story, but it's just the fact that this individual's life was completely changed. And because his life was changed through esports, he's able to in turn change the lives of thousands and thousands of high school students because of his experience. And I think that fact that he's giving back and he's helping build the high school esports community as someone who's experienced it himself is tremendous. And I think in any organization, sport organization or school, we always want to see our students go on to have fruitful careers and then potentially come back and give back to their community or their school or their sport organization. And I think when you can, grab kids at a young age when they're impressionable in high school and they find that passion for something that turns into their career and their profession for many years, they are going to have that sense of wanting to give back to their community. And I think that's really powerful. And we saw it with that great video. We saw how his life was changed and how now he's changing the lives of many other students that have a passion for video games and esports. So what we're going to do now is, instead of going into actual breakout rooms, we're going to do this right here in the main room. We're just going to discuss for a few minutes, like how esports can be used in your school to inspire and motivate students. Is this something that you have experience with or you've been thinking about? What brought you to, this session? What brings you to want to make a difference in kids' lives through video games and esports? I'd love for you guys to maybe just unmute yourself, maybe turn on your camera if you'd like, and we can just spend a few minutes talking about it right here. You can also share in the chat room if you'd like to just post some of your thoughts there. Maybe how this video made you feel, or things that you saw, or things that we've been discussing so far that's important to you.
I think too, Justin, you were kind of mentioning it before, is that idea of social purpose, right? And I think that's a big piece, is how do we bring in social purpose, not only for, entrepreneurs and businesses, but in education? Why do we give back to our community? What is that proponent? Why do we do it? And what is the need for it? Do we want to make our community stronger, better, more connected? And why are we doing that? And what is the ideas behind it? So I think the idea with Playversus and Playversus, it's the same thing. He wanted to create a kind of a community within, this digital world, but also show that there is so much more community out there that they can create within this new generation, right? It is digital, but it is something that's much larger and much more expansive for people, and giving access to a lot more people that would have not necessarily had access to esports tournaments or gaming facilities or anything like that. So I think it's pretty great to see that idea kind of come to fruition in a sense.
And Danny is saying they built an esports club in March and COVID hit. So now they're trying to figure out how to work the club in the new normal. So yeah, I think that's a challenge that a lot of schools are having right now with all subjects. And I think there are a lot of benefits to having that esports club. First of all, like I said earlier, it is asynchronous. So you can still create activities that students can go through. Maybe they're not doing it in the exact same place at the exact same time, but they're still able to connect remotely, and do scrimmages and club practices and stuff like that. One of the other things that I really love about esports clubs is the fact that, like I said before, it brings everyone to the same level. So you heard the teacher in that video talk about how it doesn't matter what size you are or how tall you are, or, even what age you are. An esports club is for all minds, all kinds, and females and males as well. So in traditional sports, you do see a lot of segregation. But in esports, there's none of that. Everyone can play at the same time, regardless of their level, for fun or competitively.
Yeah, and there's so many platforms out there that, have the options to to kind of go through practices or go through training situations that you can continue, that teamwork aspect. But then again, if you have an after school club, they have your certain curriculum throughout the day, but then maybe your after school club or your, nighttime is your practice, right? Is when most people are available and, their parents are home, they can help facilitate or what have you. It's something that they can still accomplish at home without being at a specific time and location, like Justin was saying before. It's something that can continue, and that camaraderie piece, that teamwork piece is always kind of there.
All right, Danny, thanks for sharing your thoughts. We'll move on now to part 2, which is focused on convergence. And really, when it comes to convergence, the basic definition is when esports and traditional sports start to blend together with industry and culture, education as well, to form a new vehicle for learning and workforce development. And there are a number of great examples of this, especially lately during the pandemic, of convergence in action. And probably one of the most popular and well-known examples of convergence was when Travis Scott, who's a very popular rapper, actually gave a digital performance in the game Fortnite. And it was so popular, it had over 12.3 million concurrent players in the game watching this Travis Scott in-game concert. It was a remarkable thing. Fortnite and Travis Scott got amazing reviews, amazing publicity because of it. And it really did break down some of those barriers where, traditional sports and video games and music really used to be kind of separate entities. Now you're starting to see them blend together because of technology and because that's what fans are looking for. And the video game culture is where a lot of students are already at. So this was a really powerful experience that really shaped the culture of these very popular online games and brought everyone together. There were fans that have never heard of Travis Scott before that, got into the game and learned about him. And it was just a great experience and a really cool example of convergence. Another thing that makes convergence so powerful right now is that it creates that cycle of continual growth and opportunity for students of all levels, especially at the high school level. You heard the guy from Play Versus talk about how there are a number of colleges starting to create scholarship opportunities for esports. And so that's where high school becomes that incubator for, professional development and to offer opportunities that most gamers and a lot of students wouldn't normally have. So you see how esports starts to lean on a little bit at the professional level on traditional sports in areas like coaching and scouting and teamwork. And then on the flip side, you see pro sports, traditional sports like the NBA or the National Hockey League or football, leaning on esports in areas like social media and, advanced technology, next gen technology, and then of course, player influence. So we look at this popular rapper, how he gets integrated into the video game, and all of a sudden there's 12.3 million people viewing this concert in the game at the same time. It's a huge win for the music industry. It's a huge win for the video game. And now you're starting to see other sports and other industries follow suit and create that same kind of interaction and meshing within themselves. And so this is creating, again, tons and tons of brand new opportunities for students to, create career paths for themselves and have really valued, relevant jobs in the workforce.
I also think it's a way for, these entertainment kind of profiles or these people to connect with their fans on a really close and intimate level. You can have conversations within a game that you wouldn't have at a concert or you wouldn't have at a stadium. It's able to kind of break down that wall of there's security or there's, rules and regulations in place. Whereas you could just sit on a microphone and talk to, the biggest stars and play with them a video game. And like you would just be hanging out in the living room growing up playing Atari or, Pong or whatever it is at an arcade. It's those types of things that kind of really make it less of an intimidating factor as well.
Yeah, and I mean, growing up traditionally, it was really hard for me to ever meet my favorite hockey player or get a chance to, interact with them or get autographs. And in today's world with the emerging technology and streaming and everything else that's out there, like Davis said, now you can sit down in front of your computer, and the next thing you know, you might be playing a video game with, you know, a famous NBA player. And the culture has shifted too, where, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, traditional sports athletes, especially at the professional level, never really talked about their gaming experiences or their passion for gaming, because it was looked down upon from, you know, authorities, whether it was the head coach or the general manager or even fan bases as a whole. But now, because gaming is so relevant, it's been embraced by society, and a lot of professional athletes are coming out and sharing their passion for video games and, you know, participating in these different tournaments and these different events. And that's just another example of convergence, where traditional sports and esports are starting to lean on each other and create all these new opportunities. And literally just today, it was announced that Spotify had agreed to terms with Riot Games, the head of some of the most popular titles in esports like League of Legends. And now Spotify and League of Legends are starting to work together to create, you know, music playlists that gamers and fans all over can use, and that are being used in these different competitions for League of Legends, which again is one of the most viewed annual tournaments for an esports title. So we're talking millions of people now. And it's really, really cool when you look at Naz Alita, the head of global esports partnerships, what she's been able to do in her career, breaking down some barriers for females in esports. She has this unbelievable quote in the article of the press release that came out today that specifically speaks directly to convergence. She talks about how, you know, partnering with Spotify unlocks the ability to merge sports, technology, and music together to create unforgettable entertainment experiences and content. So I thought that was really cool to kind of slide into this deck today, because it's very relevant and it's something that just happened today. So a really cool, you know, example of convergence in action happening right now.
I think that kind of speaks to the industry as a whole, Justin, is just how fast things change, right? How things pop up and can continue to develop, and how many different things are constantly changing within the esports and gaming world. It's because it's such a booming industry, and so things are taking off so quickly that it's almost hard to keep up. And I think that's where the biggest, you know, barrier sometimes is what equipment do we need? How can we stay on top of it? And what games are the most popular, and so on. So it is kind of funny, but also exciting, right? There's so much change, but there's so much excitement because it's changing so quickly.
Yeah, it really speaks to that limitless component, that there's really no limit to what you can do. But like we're discussing in the chat room, and Davis and Danny are bringing up really good points about accessibility. And those are one of the things that we try and break down at MSL CAPITA. We want to eliminate those barriers of entry when it comes to, you know, engaging students in esports and gaming and having them get involved in these type of things, because again, it's not just a waste of time. They're developing relevant skills, soft skills and hard skills that are going to help them, you know, create that opportunity for professional workforce development, for having careers or college scholarships. And what's really exciting, like Davis is talking about, it's almost hard to keep up with all of the change that takes place with the technology and the way that culture kind of shifts forward. But next generation consoles are coming out around the holiday season. So that means we're going to have a new PlayStation and a new Xbox, and that's going to change everything. And this video is pointing to that.
Welcome to NBA 2K21 My Career. The brand new features added to the next-gen version will give you a much more realistic experience of being an NBA player. Introducing the interactive off-the-court social system. Your actions away from the basketball court will affect your My Career experience. You can be quiet and reserved like Kawhi Leonard, or a little bit more controversial like Kyle Kuzma. As you play My Career, you will earn VC, which you can spend on improving your player or purchasing items. Want a new car? Why not buy a Mercedes, or even maybe a Porsche? You can also buy a new apartment, a small house, or even a penthouse depending on your budget and style. If you play well enough and long enough, you can even purchase your own yacht with a basketball court in which you can practice your skills. Need a quick rebounder? Why not buy a pet dog which can chase your ball? And it's not just that. You can now express your fashion style in My Career. With new brands such as Yeezy, Off-White, and Gucci added to the game, you can truly make a fashion statement. Or, if you're more classy, purchase an expensive suit from the higher tier stores. Your My Player is now even more customizable with new haircuts, tattoos, and even piercings added to the game. And of course, it doesn't stop there. As you play, you will have the option of spending time at restaurants, nightclubs, and more new places. You can interact with people, build connections, and even start new relationships. But be careful. If you're too reckless off the court, you might end up paying VC for child support. I'm only joking. But these are just some of the new features that'll truly make My Career more exciting and realistic. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a like as it really helps out the channel. If you're a new subscriber, turn on notifications to never miss a video from Y2K.
Okay, so that's pretty unbelievable. And I think it kind of points back to what we talked about earlier in terms of digital citizenship. Like now that's a really important thing that we have to make sure we instill in our students and our athletes, because games are becoming so immersive. It's almost like you have a life in this digital world and everything's being tracked, and you can do everything from building houses to, you know, collecting pets and having relationships. So it's pretty extreme, but it's just a glimpse into what is kind of possible in next gen systems and next gen consoles. And again, that's why we really emphasize at MSL CAPITA that human element, the social emotional learning, making sure that the students and the athletes are prepared to exist in this next generation world and to make sure they're equipped with the awareness and the respect and the citizenship that they need to, you know, improve and, you know, take advantage of these games in the right way. And so I think that's all kind of coming together. And again, another example of convergence, you know, happening right here, right now. It's also important too that with these next gen consoles, it's a great opportunity to learn the game if you don't have the physical capacity to train in person. So again, we're dealing with this pandemic where a lot of sports teams are not together, a lot of facilities are closed, and kids are still looking for ways to get better at the sport that they enjoy. Or maybe they're picking up new sports because they have the time to kind of explore new opportunities and get involved in new hobbies. And that's one of the great things about these video games that are traditional sports, but are also kind of incorporated into the esports ecosystem.
Cool now. Shot clock's off. Got to go for a three here if you're Boston. You got to try to tie this thing up, and it's a snatch block by Shuttles. That takeover for the first half. Chalk goes down to Shuttles, and Shuttles.
Yo, what's good, SGC fans? Shuttles here. I'm about to break down two plays for you guys. So the first play we have is against Fab, and this was in crunch time. So I knew the play before this, I had actually thrown the turnover. So I knew I had to get it back somehow, some way. So Fab's coming up the court, he's working the right wing. And I just knew for a fact, just knowing Fab's tendencies, he wasn't gonna go for a three, he was going for a layup to try to cut the gap to one. So I'm moving my left stick up so it can square me up with Fab and move me back to the rim. And once I saw Fab get the blowback, I pressed RT and Y together. So with the snatch block, if you just press Y, it'll give you a block. With RT, it'll give you kind of a boost. So you press RT and Y, and that's really what triggered my snatch block. So this play right here, Chalk's bringing up the ball. I kind of hit Ty with the screen. I pressed B to hit the screen. It created enough distance for Chalk to get open, but Ty recovered, so I got the ball. And what I did was, Plondo's out of position. He's trying to come back to kind of put a body on me, and I was able to slide by him. So what I did was, my left stick was facing up towards the rim. I press X, I lightly tap it to get the hop step animation, and then I tap it again to get that full dunk.
Okay, so great example of teaching the game through the video game. So there's real world relevancy there in terms of, you know, basketball strategy, and then it's also showing you exactly what buttons to push. And so it's great for, you know, in-game mechanics and teaching as well. And again, streaming and having these overlays where you can see the controller and see what buttons the players are pushing is an awesome educational tool, mainly for sports organizations, but again, it can be incorporated in the classroom as well. There's really no limit to that. And what a great way to introduce different sports to different athletes, especially those that may not have the physical capacity to go out and play the game. If they have a passion for basketball, but they can't get out on the court, being able to learn the game through the video game is a great opportunity. And it does, increase diversity and accessibility at the same time.
And it's something too, Justin, that we talk about quite a bit too with MSL CAPITA, is just how do we bring this esports type of training to, real traditional sports. So kind of like what we were talking about, Patricia and Danny in the chat, is these sports organizations or these sports kind of athletic departments, these coaches may not have, access to the team depending on the situation or what state they're in currently, right? How can they continue to engage the team with, with different types of training or different types of strategy, and how can they learn from, video games, or how can they lean on video games or esports to really not only communicate or collaborate, but also learn strategy for their upcoming next season or the spring season if it got pushed, whatever it may be. Can they connect that way? Can they learn a different sport that helps them with another sport? I play a lot of, Madden, or I play a lot of, FIFA 21 to learn strategies for hockey. And, those are types of things that you have to try to balance and try to take away what you can learn from one thing is applicable to another. And I think that's another way to bring that esports thing to the culture of your school, is engaging your other traditional athletes, but also showing the importance that esports can have on a culture at a school too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool because you start to blend all these things together. And again, it's another form of convergence, teaching certain skills that are applicable in all sports and in other areas, in other domains outside of sports through these games is really powerful. And again, there are a lot of great training tools out there that exist already that are focused on more of this cognitive and mental performance component, which is extremely important. Again, not just in the video games, but in all walks of life. Mindfulness practices, the importance of, having physical dexterity and getting proper rest and taking care of nutrition. All of these things are extremely important to high-level esports competition, and we know it's important in real life as well. So converging those things together brings relevancy, and it gives everyone an opportunity to really develop those skills. And again, we shared just a couple of the organizations that are out there that are pretty well known, that are providing this type of cognitive training and giving that skill evaluation component so that students and esports and students and gamers can continually improve their skills and work on that balance between, the mental component and just enjoying themselves and having a good time and learning at the same time. So it really is preparing students and gamers at all levels for competitive success while also enhancing their mental capacity and their cognitive skills. And we wanted to share this statistic from Hive Gaming because it's really powerful, and it does kind of reinforce a lot of the themes that we've been discussing so far. But nearly 80% of high school kids that play on an esports team have never actually played in a team environment before. So they've never been involved in traditional sports or any kind of team experience. So it's an amazing opportunity for a lot of these kids to learn about humility, failure, overcoming challenges, and of course, like we talked about earlier, collaboration and cooperation, which are two of the main benefits of a high school esports club. So really getting kids that maybe have experienced, gaming and esports in their home in isolation all alone. Now you put them into this positive environment and give them that experience of working with other students and other teammates. And now they start to develop those skills. Whereas beforehand, it was almost always done in isolation or on their own. So that's a really powerful component and tool for high school esports. And again, it just emphasizes the value of opportunity. This rapid rise in convergence that we're seeing almost every single day now breeds opportunity for young leaders and entrepreneurs to make that positive social impact. And we saw that in the video with Darnell from Play Versus. it's also a chance to make a real world difference and contribute to the diversity in the sports world. And that unites all of us. And we're seeing that play out in real time right now, especially in sports like in the National Hockey League with a new diversity alliance, and obviously in football, and pretty much every major sport is going through some kind of social reform. And esports brings us all together and unites all of us. So it's just a tremendously powerful tool in that regard. Just to kind of highlight some of the careers that can be created through esports and that you can cultivate in a high school student can be seen right here. And this is a great little image from NASEF, the North America Scholastic Esports Federation. And so again, you can see how expansive it becomes. It kind of starts with, gamers and individuals that are just, passionate about playing certain video games. And then as they start to see this whole world expand at the collegiate and the high school level, it does create that pipeline of opportunity where they can go into, coaching esports, or they can go into broadcasting, or they can get involved in more of the tech literacy side of things, whether it has to do with, developing, tournaments, or getting involved in audio engineering or stage building. I mean, it really is endless. And as time goes on and Convergence becomes more relevant and it grows, it's just branching out like a strike of lightning. And so it's really, really powerful, and there's no limit to what kids can do. It really is just driving that passion forward and giving them the opportunity to learn those key skills that's going to help them when they get older.
With viewers, sponsorships, and prize pools now outpacing even some traditional sports, video games are suddenly a more viable career path than ever. At schools like Maryville University and Columbia College in Missouri, there's a hope in the back of players' minds that their talent might get them noticed.
My biggest passion in life is competitive League of Legends.
I never expected to be like a professional gamer. You never thought about that growing up?
For being less than a decade old, professional League of Legends is in a pretty good place. Pros on the North American circuit can rake in a six-figure salary. The biggest annual tournaments put millions of dollars on the line. And esports as an industry now supports more careers, from coaching and broadcast to programming and graphic design. Some players even make a living streaming gameplay on platforms like Twitch. And by most counts, League of Legends is the most popular online game. Last time Riot Games talked about stats, 27 million people logged in to play every day, and 43 million people tuned in to watch streams of the 2016 World Championship. That's approaching the popularity of some World Series or NBA Finals games. So why not go pro? Players are already putting in the focus and the hours to make League of Legends a full-time job. Their performance shows that all the teamwork and communication they've honed works. The best college players are among the most skilled in the world, in the top 10th of 1% of everyone who plays League. As they say, academics come first. But players know if they're good enough, they might get other opportunities.
I want to be a professional more than anything ever.
Well, the hope would be to do it professionally, right? But the realistic goal is to get a job with my computer science degree.
Coaches are also aware that their best players might get offers from pro teams.
When opportunities come up with professional team after you play, it's kind of hard to turn it down. And if it does happen, I wouldn't be opposed to letting them go for that. It's good for them.
I have no problem with them going pro if they want to. I mean, who wouldn't want to go pro if they have the drive for it, I make sure that they read the contracts, because, you never know what the contract's going to stay or state.
That didn't happen during Maryville's 2017 season, and if it ever does, it's still not for everyone. The time and effort needed to go pro is even more demanding than playing for a varsity team.
To go pro, you have to be really motivated, and you have to dedicate a lot of your time. And I don't feel like I'm at a place where I can commit as much time as my teammates.
Andrew Smith is pursuing Maryville's Rawlings Sport Business Management degree. He expects to graduate in 2019.
I never expected to go to college for playing video games, so it's kind of weird to look back and think about it. It's not like it was something I dreamt about, it just happened, so that's the coolest part.
It was always sort of like a pipe dream of mine, I guess, to eventually make it pro.
If I can't make it as a pro player, I would love to work for an organization or even Riot Games as part of their broadcast team.
Since the 2017 season, Connor Doyle has moved to Lourdes University in Ohio to finish a degree in business administration and captain the school's League of Legends team. He's also interning as a coach for Wind and Rain, a league team on the European pro circuit. But he remembers where he started, with the team he helped build when he signed on at Columbia College.
That process definitely taught me a lot about myself, taught me how to be a better leader. This was when I was at Colby College my sophomore year. I had to make a decision whether or not I actually wanted to try and make it pro and follow my dream. It still feels a little crazy looking back, but I think I made the right decision.
Okay, so again, you saw some of the great opportunities that are available for high school students, especially as college esports grows. And it was also really interesting when I was watching this video for the first time to see some of the things in the background in that video. You saw a lot of students playing video games in a classroom setting or in a club setting, and you saw like different types of food on the counter and some good drinks and some not so good drinks, some sodas and things like that. And I think as we start to see Convergence take over and have a bigger impact on esports, it's important to realize that for coaches and educators, we have to make sure we're helping students maintain that balance. So just like an elite pro, traditional athlete focuses again on proper rest and mindfulness and having that balance between mind, body, and spirit, the same thing has to hold true for esports athletes and kids that have a real passion for gaming, but maybe leaning a little bit towards having some unhealthy habits. So always instilling good habits and balance and making sure they're taking care of their schoolwork, the relationships that they have in lives, all of those different values that hold true to elite athletes and Olympians and professional athletes. Like we want to reinforce those same things with, high school kids that have a real passion for gaming and esports. And so that's one of the things that I know at the professional level when it comes to these esports teams, they are emphasizing those things. They do go into the weight room. They do have, personal trainers. They have nutritionists and things like that. And again, that's a great way for educators and coaches to, again, reinforce those same habits and those same positive things to gamers and kids that are passionate about esports. So once again, just kind of would love to have a discussion here for the next couple of minutes before we start to wrap this up with the final part. Examples of convergence that maybe you've experienced or that you've seen, in your world, wherever you may be. I see a lot just because I'm involved in the professional hockey world and just see how much, gamers and hockey players have kind of molded together, especially during the pandemic. The National Hockey League even hosted a players gaming challenge where one player from every NHL team kind of came together and competed in NHL 20, the video game. And they kind of posted that on social media, and it really helped engage fan bases while games were on hold. So that's kind of an example of convergence that I've seen. But if any of you guys have, seen anything where these industries are blending together, or you've seen it in the education world, feel free to share.
I think too, Justin, it's almost like a different way of connecting too. Like you think TikTok and these social media platforms or, mobile games of becoming such a big thing. It's a converging of ideas, right? We want to show our dance moves. We want to compete. We want to be able to connect on a different level. And I think that's kind of where people are at right now, especially since we can't always connect in person, especially with, the pandemic and what's going on, in our world. But it's finding ways that we can find that almost that solace that we have missed out on. And a lot of students have a passion for games, whether it be mobile gaming with Fortnite or, just playing Candy Crush or Animal Crossing or some of those like more relaxing type games. It's finding the ways that they can still connect. Because I know Animal Crossing is a huge game right now. And it's almost like a very, a different version of The Sims. And it's very unique, but you can visit each other. You can have conversations. You can do all these, simplified things, but it's just a different way to connect and share your life with somebody else in a different way.
Yeah. And I think that feeling of emptiness, I mean, I know for myself with a lot of the goalies that I work with, they have that that loss of identity because they aren't able to go to the rink every day and see their same buddies and their teammates. And so they're looking for, like Davis said, ways to connect, and gaming and esports is a great way for everyone to connect. And we've definitely, shown a lot of really good examples of that. So as we kind of start to wrap up here, we are going to go ahead and kind of focus on how to get started. So I know that some of you in the chat room have talked about how you kind of have these clubs already starting to get organized, and things are on hold because of the pandemic, and schools look very, very different right now. So things are kind of in a state of flux. But for those that, have that passion for gaming and esports, but really want to take that first step in their organization or their school, we just wanted to share a couple of details, and then again, close up by talking about the new CoLab Fellowship that we just launched a couple of days ago that is now open for individuals. So really, when it comes to taking that first step, high school esports program really can be customized and personalized to fit the needs of your students. So what I always recommend is to just take a school-wide query, whether you can do it via email or in another way. Talk to the students and see what they would get the most enjoyment out of. The odds are extremely high. Probably 3 out of every 4 kids, or at least 2 out of every 4 kids, are already have a passion for esports and gaming and would love to see their school start a club. So that being the case, if you can just do a real simple poll and see what number of students are already interested in this, that's a great first step to take, because obviously the whole goal here is to bring value to your students and to inspire your students. And so by, just asking them straight up, like, would they be interested in this? You'd be surprised probably at how much interest there already is out there. And there's really 2 kind of tracks that you can take when it comes to an esports club. You can, focus it on the competitive side, where you're really, developing skill sets for professional esports, or it can be more casual, where it's more about the experience of gaming and blending the learning into that experience. And then from there, it just continues to branch off. So if you're more focused on like a legitimate esports club that can turn into, a varsity sport, and you can compete for championships and, have varsity athletes, there is the NCAA opportunity, and there is that opportunity to develop young professionals that can go on to become pros before they even get to college. And then on the gaming and learning side, it's that ability to blend in, STEM curriculum, and to really emphasize with your teachers and your faculty that opportunity for learning design, to be creative and come up with ways to, for example, use Minecraft in different subjects. And so that's really kind of the main blueprint that exists for high school esports today, is you've got your competitive side that can turn into a varsity sport, or you can kind of focus more on the learning side that can be used in different subjects. And even from there, you can kind of blend the 2 together. You can have both. They can, coexist simultaneously. So again, there's really no limit to what you can do. And by just polling your students, you can get a really good idea of what might be more relevant to your school, and what might be less relevant. From there, we really like to focus on the equity-centered design thinking concept. And this is a real big staple at MindSpark Learning and with the MSL CAPITA program when it comes to, designing learning experiences and utilizing it in the classroom. And we really like to start with the idea of empathy. And we talked about empathy already, so we don't really need to revisit it. But empathy is at the heart of design, whether you're talking about a video game or an esports program. You need to have a solid understanding of what type of club your students want. Otherwise, the design process is going to be meaningless. So go ahead and talk to your students, talk to your faculty and staff. Again, odds are extremely high that you probably already have a ton of interest. It just hasn't really been organized cohesively yet. And so there's a lot of power in being the one that, helps to bring everyone in your school together and get that process started. The next step, of course, is the defining step. And we often say that it's important to define before you design. So creating an impactful esports program by taking this design thinking approach really centers on defining the needs of your school. What do you need to make this happen? How much space is going to be needed? What type of technology concerns are there? And the technology component can become a little bit tricky, but if you have IT staff support at your school, or someone that you can kind of lean on as an advisor in that area, they'll be able to help troubleshoot through that process and help you understand how to, overcome obstacles like security issues and Wi-Fi access and all those things that are needed for, an organized club to start to develop. That can be done with an advisor, or maybe there's someone already on your staff at your school or in your sport organization that's focused on information technology. And so the next step here is the ideate stage. And we like to use the acronym SMART. So SMART esports clubs are often student-led. So as you can kind of see here, we talked about agency for students. There's a mentoring component. Okay, so older students might be able to mentor younger students and help develop some of those leadership opportunities. It's accessible, so it's available to everyone. It's responsive in the sense that, again, going back to that blueprint, it really meets the needs of the student base, okay, and it provides those opportunities. And again, it's transformative. So there are those opportunities for professional development. It changes kids' lives. And then maybe they want to come back and become the esports coach 10, 15 years down the line. So those are really 5 main keys to a successful esports club. And with all the top high school esports clubs around the country, you'll see that they kind of check those 5 boxes: student-led, there's a mentoring component, accessibility, responsiveness, and it's transformative. And then kind of last but not least is just the prototyping, is just being creative, not being afraid to think outside the box and try different things and customize and personalize your esports club, again, to meet the needs of the students that you have. Every school is different. They all have different cultures. They all have different needs, and they're all in different areas. So being creative and trying to, tinker with things that work, but you'd like to try something new, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so that's kind of how we wanted to sort of close this session, is just by discussing, maybe things that work for you, things that you would love to try. Bouncing those ideas off of each other helps us all grow and come up with new ideas. So if there's anything you'd like to share.
So kind of one idea, Justin, too, is when we talked with some other teachers in our community, is when we were thinking about ways to find not only funding, but also, ways to push that innovative and that connectiveness to the community, is they partnered with, maybe it was a digital marketing firm, right? The digital marketing firm would be able to support them in a way that either was monetary or it was, some sort of support with tech, but it was also then in turn, like, how do they market, or how could the students help market some of their work, whether it be, almost like a problem-based learning scenario where they're doing the work as a connected school to like a partnership with this digital marketing firm. And it was, a great tailored experience because they were able to get real world feedback with a real organization, as well as receive some kind of benefit. So if you're partnering with, any outside or community organizations, it's got to be like a two-way street. And it's not just looking for some funding just because you're a school or education or organization. It's what can we provide each other that will benefit both of us, and really creating and marketing, because this digital marketing firm wanted to address their social audience of, teenagers, it was a great example of how they actually were able to play off one another to benefit one another as well.
I think Davis brought up a really great point, actually, is the fact that this is a great opportunity to do like a problem-solving project with your students. Again, if you pull your students and you find out you've got 20 kids that are super passionate about esports and have just been waiting for something like this to come about, bring them into the equation. Okay, make it a group project where the kids have that agency and they have the ability to help shape and mold what that club looks like. Because if they're the ones that are going to be involved in the day-to-day operations, they're going to be the ones that are, benefiting from the program. What a great way to, empower them to take on that leadership role and let them help you. Because again, you don't have to be an expert at all these things. You don't have to know every single piece of what it takes to build a world-class high school esports program. You just need to have passionate students, and you need to know where to lean on to get the support that's needed to make it happen. And there are tons of great resources. And of course, you can always lean on MSL CAPITA to help you start that process. And that takes us kind of to our final piece that we wanted to share, is explaining what our CoLab Esports Fellowship is and how you can get involved. So this is an awesome 6-month fellowship, immersive learning, professional development learning experience, where we are accepting 16 individuals. You can be involved in a school or a sport organization anywhere in the world. And if you take the program and you go through this 6-month intensive program where we teach you a lot of relevant skills and a lot of things that you'll need to go out and create your esports program, you will earn $500 from MindSpark Learning and our partners. So this is a great opportunity that's available right now. We just launched it a few days ago. Davis dropped the link in the chat room. Check it out. There's a simple application form. So basically you submit your email and you will get sent the application. You fill out the application, submit that to us, and then we'll go through, and when we make our selections, we'll have a group of 16 individuals that will go through this 6-month program. And then at the end, once again, you'll be earning $500 that you can take back and use towards building your actual esports club or program.
And one thing I do want to clarify with that too, there's so many programs out there that already develop or help build a club and what it looks like, the foundations, the basic pieces. But what our goal is to do is to kind of fill in those gaps of how to make it more impactful, how to make it more responsive, more sustainable, and create a larger, more transformative club than just, let's just go in after school and play some video games or compete and so on. What is it that we need to focus on? Is it the SEL components? Is it those relationships? Is it the communication and the soft skills? There's a lot of different opportunities for growth within esports. And we're going to kind of take you through those lanes rather than just, here's the basics of what a club looks like. So please, feel free to reach out to us if you have any more questions. But, if there's a lot of, answers throughout on that website. So please feel free to look through there to really get a better understanding. If you seem like you or one of your, colleagues is interested, please forward it to them as well.
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. We're obviously really excited about it. And I think, like Davis said, it's really important to emphasize that it's not just a plug and play program where, we give you all the steps and that's it. We're going to discuss problems of practice. We're going to help you troubleshoot and figure out the best way to get the most out of, your program and where your skills lie and just how to make it better. Because again, there are lots of different challenges, and everyone's going to be facing different challenges to optimizing, their esports program. And we're going to help you, come up with solutions and find great ways to maximize the potential, and also, help develop those industry partnerships. That's a really important piece as well, is that we do love to connect individuals with industries and help you create that network that's going to help you, develop a great program. So awesome opportunity. We just wanted to close by sharing that because it is limited to only 16 individuals, and applications are available now on the website. So I'm going to drop my email address in the chat room. I'll drop Davis's in there as well. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys, joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about the rise of high school esports and just how powerful it can be in changing students' lives. So if you have any other questions, let us know. And we would really appreciate too if you just took a couple of minutes to take our short survey. The MSL CAPITA program is relatively new, and so we really appreciate the feedback just so that we can make our offerings as good as possible. So we appreciate the feedback. We would love it if you took just a couple of minutes to fill out that form. And then once again, sorry, I'm just going to finish putting Davis's email in here. So there's my email and Davis's email. And then real quickly, just so you know what's next, in a couple of weeks, we will have a short 30-minute snippet titled Bringing Esports to Your School. So we'll kind of emphasize a little bit more of what you might find in the collab. And then on September 24th, the collab esports fellowship actually begins. We have a great weekend, 2-day kickoff event to start that whole collab experience. So once again, for Davis and myself, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And you can always learn more about MSL CAPITA and the MindSpark Learning, MSL CAPITA program at mymindsparklearning.org. So if you have any questions, we'll stick around for just a few minutes. Otherwise, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.